Welcome to this edition of Open for Business, Monterey County. I'm Mary Ann Leffel. I'm your host. I'm president of the Monterey County Business Council. And every month we showcase business, activities, events, things that are going on around your neighborhood that you might not know about, and things that you should know about. So there are ways to get involved. Stick with us. We'll get you involved, and you'll learn a whole lot more about Monterey County. So my first guest today is somebody I've known for about 30 years and worked a long, long time with on many events, and we both retired and just kept on going. So Mr. Bill Wojtkowski,
Yes.
Welcome.
Glad to be here.
So how many years has it been?
We came in 1984. I came as the planning director for the City of Monterey.
So, and I think I did my first volunteer effort for the city about 1987 or 88.
Okay.
So there you go.
Yeah, nice long history.
Yeah. I think somebody called me and said, hey, would you sit on an economic,
Oh, yes.
wasn't that, I think
Right.
that was it. So, yeah, it's a long time.
It has been.
So, well, you've done a lot of volunteer work since then, and I know one of the things that you're currently involved in and proud of is the Old Monterey Foundation. And I admire them from afar. I think what you all do is really worthwhile and kind of overdue for this area of people really taking the history and pumping it up so people understand it. So you want to talk just a little bit about the foundation?
Sure. First, we are not the Old Monterey Business Association. That's a distinct group that's involved with the downtown. That's more the business side, and they deal with homeless and parking and other issues. We are.
I was on that. We
Yeah.
actually brought Main Street and the
Right, the Main
Farmers
Street
Market.
program and Farmers Market, exactly.
That's right.
So we are a nonprofit organization, and we implement stuff. We do stuff. We don't discuss policy. We do stuff. And we've done art in the Adobes. We're involved with the July 4th parade. We're involved with the language capital of the world. We've done plein air exhibits. But by far our biggest venture right now is the Lower Presidio Historic Park. That was a plan that was done with the cooperation of the Army in 2002, and it just laid there as many plans do. And so right now we are heavily involved with implementing that. And it's a big task, requires a lot of money and a lot of work because it's a very historic site that has significant archaeological resources. So we have to be, it's very, very difficult to go through the process to build anything there. But we are heavily involved with that.
So I've watched that, I guess, piece of land and just the whole thing, and hardly ever go there. And I think that's probably the biggest problem. Everybody drives past it, and they don't even realize there's a park there. So I love what you're doing to raise the visibility of it and make people more aware of the fact that that actually is a park, and there are some really significant things there.
Very much so, Mary Ann. First thing is, people when they see Lower Presidio, they think there's no access to the public. Well, and that's why one of our big accomplishments, more recent accomplishments, was a large sign on Pacific Street. You get there by going on Pacific Street from the downtown, and instead of going through the tunnel, you bear left. And then you'll see our large sign, and you make a left turn, and you'll see the Presidio Museum and the Lower Presidio Historic Park. That area has been leased for 50 years to the City of Monterey. So the City of Monterey operates it, maintains it, but of course anything we do on improvements has to be approved by the Army. So it's an incredible site. Right now we don't have the improvements as yet installed, but it's still arguably one of the most historic sites in all of California and one of the best views. It overlooks the harbor and the marina, and it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous site.
So you've got a couple activities coming up to showcase it and get more people to be aware of it. And is that where the slope landing is?
That's where the slope landing is actually, the slope memorial is there.
Slope memorial.
But the slope landing occurs right by between Custom House Plaza and Fisherman's Wharf.
Okay.
And that's where they do their reenactment. But you're correct, there is the slope memorial, and one of our things is to have an easy pathway. Right now you have to walk up a very hilly slope to get to the Sloat Monument. And so we are working with the city to construct a pathway that would allow able-bodied people as well as disabled people to get to the Sloat Monument. There's Father Sarah's monument is there. There's Captain Bouchard, the Argentinian privateer who tried to burn down Monterey, is there. There's a cross of Alex Nino, the first Native American that was buried in California. So, plus the remains of the old El Castillo Spanish fort. So there's just a lot of history there that has been forgotten for a lot of reasons, partially because of the access and partially because of the closing of the Presidio to the public. Again, most people think that, you know, that whole area up there is closed to the public.
You know, it's interesting. I didn't realize the history of how many different countries had owned or claimed to own California until I went to the rodeo.
Huh.
And you know, they do the parade of the flags where the horses come in and they say, and in such a year, the Spaniards, and in such a year, and that in Argentina. And I remember the first time back in the 80s going to the rodeo and going, what?
Yes.
Argentina? But it's a huge piece of the history, even though it wasn't a real long period of time. It was a significant event.
It was. And, you know, one of the things we're doing is there is a business economic side to this. We hope to work with the visitor community, and whether it's the people who are involved with history or culture or just the military. Obviously, we have many things going on at Fort Ord with the cemetery and other facets. But here on this property, we have a Presidio Museum that talks about the history of the military on the Monterey Peninsula. And now with these creations of the walkways and the park, we do hope that this will cause people to spend an extra day or an extra half a day just exploring the lower Presidio.
We had a guest from out of town here about 10 years ago, and his name is Chuck Spurrow. He was one of Hal's commanders when we lived in Italy. And so he was going to stay with us 2 days. And then he came back one afternoon. He said, I'm going to stay another day. I found something I want to explore tomorrow. I said, oh, what's that? And he said, it's the lower Presidio.
Huh.
And I said, I hadn't thought of it, honestly, Bill, in probably 5 years. And so he went, and he came back, and he brought me some brochures, which made me laugh. One of the brochures he brought me was Language Capital of the World. I didn't even know those old brochures still were in existence. And he came back with one. And, of course, the Business Council has the trademark now for Language Capital of the World. So it's kind of an interesting, it was kind of an interesting thing that through the eyes of one of my visitors, I learned more about the park and the history of Monterey. And I think, you know, we all need, as locals, to get out and explore a little more.
Yes.
And see what's going on. So.
Yeah, and another facet, what the Old Monterey Foundation does is do lectures on the history of Monterey. And it's done through the Marcia DeVoe Foundation, through the Community Foundation and her fund. But last year we did one on the history of the Lower Presidio, and we did one on Captain Bouchard and the burning of Monterey. This year we're doing one on the Native Americans, and we're also doing one on the Buffalo Soldiers. And these lectures are free, and there's a little wine and cheese reception afterwards. But our whole objective is to increase the awareness of the history and culture of old downtown for locals and for visitors.
Do you know when the 2 lectures are planned?
We are in the midst of getting the speakers now. It will likely be one in July and then one in August. And then we'll do another one in September on the restoration of the old whaling house. And the 4th one will be done in conjunction with the Museum of Art. But maybe we'll come back once we have those lectures done, because they're very, very popular.
No, I attended a couple of them, but unfortunately I think there was a huge conflict because I was also on the Friends of Middlebury, and there was a huge event that Middlebury was doing the same night, even though your lecture was at the Middlebury Irvine Auditorium.
Yeah.
So I was like, can people just work together here? This is crazy. So, but anyway, it's great. I loved the lectures. I think they were extremely well done, and I learned a lot.
Yeah.
So
All of our speakers are very, very passionate. Many times they've written a new book. I mean, you wouldn't think that the subject of the burning of Monterey back in 1818 would ignite such fervor, but it does. And that's the first time he ever gave a public talk in his life. And he was very, very nervous, but he did a great job, sold many books, and the audience loved him. I think there was like 120 people that day.
that's great. That's great. Well, so you have lectures and you have events. You want to talk about the event on July 1st?
Sure. So the city gave us a grant of $5,000, and we are doing an event at the Lower Presidio Historic Park. It's a fundraiser, but our main purpose is just to, again, include the awareness of the park. We're doing this, it's a weekend, Saturday before July 4th, and we have a little theme. Ellen Martin is on our board, and she's coordinating the picnic. We're calling it Pirates in the Park.
I love
To
it.
get families involved, and again with Captain Bouchard, we're going to have people dressed up as pirates. We're going to have a scavenger hunt. We're going to have music. We're going to have some food trucks there. So it's going to be a very fun, family-friendly event held right at the Lower Presidio. Its hours are from 11 to 3 o'clock, and again, it's free. People can partake in, food truck and have a lunch there. We're hoping to get a beer and wine one-day license, and again, music, scavenger hunts, and other stuff for the kids.
Or the big kids.
Or the big kids, yes.
So can people park at Heritage Harbor Garage?
No, actually, there's plenty of parking.
Is there plenty of parking?
Yes, there's
Okay.
plenty of parking in that area. Again, if you go there, it's like a semi-construction yard. But eventually, as we continue working on this, we're also going to we hope to show an outline of the pathway. We're going to do, again, these two pathways. The city's going out to bid in June, and they hope to award the contract. So there'll be a walkway that shows, again, all these monuments that I mentioned earlier about Bouchard and Father Sarah and El Castillo, and also a walkway to Sloat Monument. And we're going to do historic signs that we'll have examples of at the July 1st. We're actually looking for members of the business community if they want to buy a sign and have that, that would be their particular sign that would show off. Because we're going to have about, I think, around 10 to 12 signs located there that tells the whole history. So it's going to be, in the future, you can come there and just enjoy a picnic, or you do a little historic walking tour on these pathways, and there is plenty of parking there.
So the signs, what kind of donations are you looking for?
Well, to actually we're always looking for donations to Old Monterey Foundation. It's a nonprofit and it's tax deductible. But for these signs, I think they're in the range of $2,300 to $2,500. If somebody were to give us that amount, they would have their name underneath that sign, donated by such and such a group. And we hope, again, have signs on the trail leading around Father Sarah's monument, and also the trail going up to the Sloat Monument.
Perfect. I like that.
Yes.
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
So, do you see more locals visit that, or more foreign tourists who actually study our area before they come here?
Yeah,
What's
I
the
think a
mix?
combination of both. We want to get there's still that fourth grade history class, so we want to get the kids involved with that. And we want to make it, more and more locals are saying, I did not know that was open to the public. So I think more locals will frequent it, but people who are interested in history of Monterey, and it's a small segment, but those people are very energetic about that, and also about the military history. Just like there's a relationship on John Steinbeck and Ed Ricketts between the Monterey Peninsula and Salinas, I can see this growing to be a relationship between Lower Presidio and Fort Ord. Again, we could expand the museum. There's been talks about additional museums or additional information about the wide history, the long history of Lower Presidio.
Yeah, I love it. You know, I think for all of us to have, as we donate, to get bang for our buck, to not just build a bunch of brick and mortar, but to take advantage of something that's already here and go back and look at it and make it more accessible, make people more knowledgeable about it is so important. So I really, really, my hat's off to you and your board on what you're doing.
Oh, thanks. And we have, you know, I have to say we're getting great contributions through the Neighborhood Improvement Program, through the Community Foundation, and the Rotary Club. They've all contributed because they see the history of this and they see the relationship to having more people come and stay longer in this particular area.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So Bill, how do people find you? What's the website?
The easiest is oldmontereyfoundation.org.
Okay.
And it tells you about the upcoming events. We'll have our lectures there. It tells you about the July 1st picnic. It tells you about, we're also doing on June 10th a Pilates in the park. And this is actually a city park. And we met with City Manager Mike McCarthy and Assistant Hans Usler and said, you know, we want all this information to be on the city website and on the city social media and on their Facebook. And Mike and Hans were very, very supportive. So they've told their social media team of Eric and Laura to do that. So it will be on the city's website too. Again, we are developing, I can't think of the last time the city developed a large park. I know we developed the 2 basketball courts recently, but a large park of this and making it accessible to everyone.
Good. Well, so we have the Old Monterey Foundation, www.oldmontereyfoundation.org. So Mr. Bill Wojtkowski's joined us. You'll hear more about this July 1st. Go be a pirate. Lower Presidio Park. And we'll be right back. Don't go away. This is Monterey County Open for Business. Thank you.